So, I'm guessing you've tuned in because you're fascinated to know what this new channel is all about. Welcome to Birmingham Business TV, a brand new concept for the city's business community. My name's Carl Jones.
And I'm Davis Okewo.
And we have got a fantastic show for you today. The intention of this channel is to bring you news, views, analysis and some fabulous interviews from in and around the city once a month, every month. And there's lots going on out here, isn't there, Davis?
Absolutely. There's lots happening. We're right here in the city centre of Birmingham at the Liquid Media Centre, and we are bringing this to you live in Birmingham. Lots is happening, and we know the Commonwealth Games has just ended, but that's not the end of the show. This is the beginning of the show.
It certainly is, and we'll be talking in a bit more detail about the legacy of the Commonwealth Games, won't we, a little bit later on. We want this to be your show. If you think there's something we should be talking about, get in touch with us. You can see our website details, bbtv.live, and we want you to come and tell us what you think the big talking points are. We'll be delivering a panel debate every issue, looking at something that's particularly topical, maybe controversial as well. And we've got a top man who's going to be helming those, haven't we, Davis?
Absolutely. The one and only Joel Blake is going to be facilitating a fantastic business show. And as well, today we have an out and about session with Pam Shima, who's going to be talking to a fantastic entrepreneur in the city. And we've got a number of interviews coming up as well. You definitely want to stay tuned.
We'll have some news bulletins for you as well. I don't know how we're going to pack it all in, to be honest. Shall we get cracking?
Yes, let's get started.
Let's meet our first studio guest. Well, our first guest today is somebody that needs no introduction, really, but we're very polite here at Birmingham Business TV, so we're going to give her one anyway. Henrietta Brealey, Chief Executive of Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce. Welcome. We were talking just a little bit before we started filming about how long it was ago that you joined the Chamber for the second time, which is the last time I interviewed you, which was 6 years ago now. So
it was indeed, around 2016.
A lot of water under the bridge since then.
Yes, yeah.
How much has your job changed from then to now?
Well, it's funny because 2016 was obviously all about the run-up to the EU referendum and then post-EU referendum. So I think it's safe to say there's been a crisis to crisis since then. But it's all just made what we do around engaging businesses and amplifying their views all the more interesting and probably more important as well.
But the issues in themselves, they don't change that much, do they? Is it just the order of priority in the shopping list that moves around?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a fundamental which comes around every now and then, which is the cost of doing business. And at the moment, that's much more important than it has been over the past few years, because we've seen a lot of things come together at once. So energy crisis, wider inflation, rising from supply chain difficulties and changes, labour market shortages leading to salary increases, etc. So all sorts of things coming together at once on that cost of doing business side, which very much is making it top of the list, but not the only thing on businesses' lists at the moment.
Go on then, tell me some more.
There's always plenty more. So there's some real positives as well as challenges. So there's a lot around future of regional growth and what that's going to look like and the role that businesses can play with the right environment from government in enabling that growth, skilling the next generation, making sure that we're in the best possible place to succeed and thrive as a community with the businesses at the heart of it. So that's another positive one there. Net zero is an interesting one. There's some real positives to come from that transition to net zero. It's a bit of an imperative in terms of climate change, but also it's looking at those challenges of transitioning to net zero for individual businesses and then the opportunities they can find as they do so to get ahead of the pack and build their resilience.
Because net zero is quite interesting, isn't it? You know, new Prime Minister in place this week, Liz Truss, you know, during the hustings, was talking about maybe some of the incentives, the green levies, they might be kicked into touch for a little bit while we're worrying about the cost of living crisis. So is there a concern that that might move a bit further down the agenda in importance for businesses now?
Well, it's not moving down the agenda in importance for businesses, which is the interesting one. And actually, if you look at things like the energy crisis, it's bringing up front and centre how you can save energy and become more efficient in terms of energy as a business, much more important than ever. But it's also something that we're still seeing from a range of different stakeholders that they're pushing down their supply chains. So we're seeing it from local authorities, combined authorities, international bodies, more and more expecting individual businesses to take their commitment to becoming more sustainable seriously. And that in turn is then encouraging those businesses in that supply chain to pass it on to their suppliers and customers. So still very much seeing it as a priority area for the business community. And in fact, we're bringing back our Sustainable Business series in September into October, which is all around sharing that best practice for SMEs on what that transition to net zero looks like how to get ahead of the pack on some of those opportunities as well, because there really are, for those businesses that are early adopters of technology or new ways of doing businesses, opportunities to get ahead of the game, as well as look at how they can change for, like I say, that more moral and environmental imperative of the climate crisis.
I guess from one point of view, the fact that we've got spiralling energy costs, and we hope the government's got a bit of a plan this week to help everyone out, that puts it into closer focus, the importance of trying to find different ways of running your business, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's two bits there. There's the piece around how really urgent it is that the government does intervene when it comes to energy costs, because the stories we're hearing from individual businesses now, it's just horrendous. And it's the slight challenge we have is not all businesses are experiencing this at the same time. So, if they are still in contract on their current energy deal, they're probably not feeling it too badly. If their contract came up at a time where energy costs were increasing, but it was still manageable, they're doing okay. Those that are coming up right now, we're hearing stories from businesses who are being quoted sort of 300% increases. We've got a large arts organisation who's been quoted £1 million additional on their annual energy costs, which they just can't find it. The challenge of trying to get an additional £1 million either in increased revenue, cost cutting, wherever it is, that's not doable for the vast majority of businesses.
Well,
it
stifles a lot of entrepreneurs in wanting to take a risk, doesn't it, as well? So
yeah, absolutely. So that piece that we're really looking for from the government is that short term, how do you keep some of that cash in businesses? So those measures around things like cutting VAT for hospitality, another industry that's being hard hit by increased energy costs, reversing that national insurance increase, and looking at measures around, say, like business rates and other ways of retaining income in businesses shorter term to manage those increased overheads. And then longer term, it's those pieces like, actually, does there need to be a bigger role for the regulator in managing business energy? And does there need to be something around that domestic supply to ensure that long-term security of energy for the country as well, and what that whole system is going to look like into the future? So those short and long-term measures is where we're really looking for.
now, the Greater Birmingham Chambers, you carry out your quarterly business survey, in fact the report's here, to gauge the mood, really, don't you, of the business community, which feeds then into the national picture. How different is Birmingham compared to some of the other areas of Britain? Are there some areas where we've got more of an opportunity, more of a threat, more of a concern?
So an interesting one with the region is actually international trade. So the West Midlands is traditionally a big trading region. We were previously, pre-pandemic, very proud of being a net exporter. And we've also been one of the region's hardest hit by the falls in international trade, partly because of our automotive sector. There's lots been well-publicised challenges there in terms of semiconductor shortages and whatnot, which, knock on wood, does sound like it's easing a lot of those supply chain and logistics issues. But we're certainly still not back up to where we were pre-pandemic in terms of international trade opportunities. And that's one of the metrics that we track with our quarterly business report. And we're actually doing a special focus on international trade with our International Trade Conference, where we'll be launching an International Trade Index to dig into that in much more detail, because it's been a sort of core part of the region and even the Chamber since our inception. As a bit of a fun fact for you, the Chamber was founded in 1813, and one of the reasons it was founded was because the workshops of Birmingham were clubbing together to lobby for greater access to European markets following the Napoleonic Wars.
Some may say what goes around comes around, mightn't they? So,
yeah, you know what you're saying earlier about how those business issues come back around again. Certainly seeing a bit of that at the moment, but that sort of international role for chambers themselves, but also the local business community, and in that very sort of external global facing is very much a central one for us at the moment.
So do you think the impact of Brexit has been less severe, more severe than was maybe predicted? Because when COVID came onto the agenda, Brexit sort of understandably slipped down the agenda, and we maybe didn't analyse it in quite so much micro detail as we would have done otherwise, didn't we?
Well, to be fair, it doesn't take that much analysis to see that trade with the EU's fallen since Brexit. And you speak to individual businesses and it's easy to understand why, because it was pretty much as simple as shipping something to, say, Scotland, when you're part of the European Union and the Customs Union, and now there's a heck of a lot of admin and documentation to be done. Good news is, for businesses that are doing a lot of it, you can learn how to do it. It's still not right, we're still not being for sort of looking at how we can smooth some of those trading relationships into the future. But short term, we're putting on a lot of support for businesses through funded programmes on Brexit. So we've got free training courses, 3 workshops, a bit of custom support helpline supported by the West Midlands Combined Authority across 3 chambers in the West Midlands, so Greater Birmingham, Coventry and Warwickshire and Black Country. So it's one of those that for businesses who are still getting stuck and bogged down in some of that paperwork and need that bit of extra support for how to get there, there are some good things available.
And are people back fully out and about on the networking circuit, do you feel now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we had a bit of a bumper start to the networking scene this year, if you like, with our Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce Awards, which
That's
we
huge,
ran in
isn't it?
March. Yeah. And we ran it in March. We're mostly promoting it into around sort of October, November, where it feels like a very long time ago now. But you remember concerns about Omicron were top of the list, and are we going to be even able to do events in the new year? And we persevered, and we sold out. I think we had about 1,250 people there on the night, and a huge buzz in the room, which has been a great sort of burst back into the scene for business networking. So yeah, we're absolutely seeing it. Some of the patterns have changed. You don't want to do events on a Monday or Friday, for instance. There's still plenty of home working going on.
I was
those
never keen
days.
on a Friday afternoon one, anyway, I've got to be fair. So, what about, so you're talking to all of your members, very different, diverse range of sectors on a regular basis. Give us a few examples, boil down, give us a snapshot of what's happening in Birmingham at the moment.
We've got some really lovely things happening in Birmingham at the moment. We've got some fantastic companies that are seeing a lot of opportunities in growth and investing in really interesting things. So, for instance, you take a company like Salts Healthcare, who are one of the oldest family-owned businesses in the country. I think they were founded in the 1700s and are still in the Salts family. But they've recently opened an innovation centre where they're investing in innovation in their Meditech products. Which is quite an exciting move for them and something that's really cementing their role as a leader in that market. We've also got companies who are finding interesting ways of dealing with some of the challenges at the moment. So we've got labour market issues. Obviously, there's a lot of companies saying recruiting pretty tough right now. In fact, if you go into any networking event and go, what's on your mind, everyone? Almost everyone, first thing they'll say is people. It is tough out there at the moment. But we've got lovely examples of actually just up the road in Lichfield. I was with the Boat Inn and Liam Dillon, who's the chef owner there. And he's about to launch a schools programme where they're working with his old school, as it happens, to put 1 year paid placements for students to help them learn the trade, see all different aspects of working for a really high quality restaurant with a sort of top chef who's appeared on TV. And yes, they get a bit of staff support with that as well, adding to the workforce, but a lot of it is their development and opportunities to see what it's like to work in the hospitality sector, so building those pipelines of talent. Then you flip it and you have got some real challenges. So again, sticking with hospitality, we've got a lovely chamber member who's done the math, and just since February, their overheads, when you take into account cost of food going up 15%, cost of beverages going up 10%, cost of electricity going up 68%, just that and a bit on salary costs as well. Their overheads have gone up by 92k a year, which is huge when you think that's a 6-month period. So at the moment, it really is those two sides, those businesses who are going, we're seeing opportunities, and those who are really being hit by a lot of the challenges that are hitting the headlines at the moment.
And you've just got to balance all of that, put it into the melting pot, the good, the bad, the ugly, the optimistic, and feed it all into government, haven't you? Lots on your
Yes.
plate, obviously. You'll come back and tell us more, I'm sure, won't you, over the course of our series. Thank you so much for coming in, and good to catch up. I can't believe it was 6 years ago. Henrietta, thank you very much. Lots more to come on Birmingham Business TV. We're going to take a quick break.
Let inspiration from a spontaneous conversation lead the way. Office life has needed to change. This time, drive forward into an intentional place. Be ready to meet, socialize, or collaborate. Being driven by people who share common ground is key. To unlock a fuller future where it isn't hard to breathe. Purpose fuels passion, and it connects us all. At home, your human connection's been buffering despite all the conference calls. You need a space that supports the growth of your heart's work. Fresh air to focus and ignite a spark. We need to expect more. More for this world and not at the expense of it. We need room to explore, to open doors with like-minded folk who want better for themselves without feeling above everyone else. That journey starts with self. In places that are mindful of your mental health, be with people who make it their mission to leave behind a better world.
A recognised global leader in technology and innovation has taken the dual roles of Vice-Chancellor and Chief Executive at Aston University. Professor Alex Subik has joined the university from Global Tech and Enterprise University RMIT in Australia. He's led on the Industry 4.0 strategy and digital transformations across the university sector, as well as with industry and governments internationally. The West Midlands is potentially in line for a £1.5 billion a year manufacturing dividend. That's according to analysis by the UK's Strategic Hub for Industrial Research. The high-value manufacturing catapult analysis coincided with the move of its headquarters to Digital and Tech Campus Innovation Birmingham, part of the Bruntwood SciTech network. Formed 11 years ago by Innovate UK, the HVM Catapult is comprised of 7 research centres, including Warwick Manufacturing Group. An accountancy firm with offices across the West Midlands is launching a business breakfast in aid of Acorns Children's Hospice. Crow is launching the Black Country Business Breakfast on the 27th of September at its office in Oldbury. Jonathan Dudley, Crow's Midlands manufacturing partner, says the breakfast will not only enable business owners and directors to find out more about Acorns, but also network with other organisations in the region. And a West Midlands manufacturing collective is embarking on a major recruitment drive after a string of reshoring wins and new breakthroughs in electrification technology. The manufacturing assembly network, made up of 8 subcontract manufacturers, has got more than 50 different vacancies currently up for grabs and is urging people to come forward and apply. We'll have more local business news coming up later in the show.
Birmingham is the largest tech ecosystem outside of London, and today I'm going to be talking to one man who definitely knows all about it, the CEO of Birmingham Tech, Yanis Moores. Thank you for joining us, Yanis.
My pleasure.
Awesome. It's so great to be here today. I'm so excited for this conversation we're about to have because a lot is happening in the ecosystem and I really want to dive into that. But before we get there, how did this all start? The whole thing about Birmingham Tech and the annual celebration that we all now know to be Birmingham Tech Week. How did it all begin?
That's a long story, so let me try and kind of keep it short and sweet. So Birmingham Tech Week started in 2019, and it started off the back of, I guess, kind of my frustration with what I had experienced to that point in Birmingham and the wider West Midlands. So I had been part of a tech scale-up, very successful one that eventually got acquired by a US firm. And a lot of that was spent in and around London. Very mature ecosystem, as we know, access to funding, access to business support, very well-connected ecosystem. And I just didn't find that when I arrived in Birmingham, and was somewhat surprised. It's a great city, great region, but we hadn't cracked it when it came to technology. And I wanted to do that, and I felt the best way of being able to do that was to kind of celebrate, what key ingredients we already had here and the solid foundation. And so I created Birmingham Tech Week. At the time, it was a startup essentially. It was a side project, a hustle, whatever you want to call it. I was actually kind of running a startup at the time. And we were meant to start very small, 200-300 people. This was in July 2019 when I kind of came up with the idea and launched it. By October 2019, we had 5,000 people attend.
Wow.
Overnight, it became the largest kind of tech festival in the UK. And we really wanted to kind of focus on 3 core values. One is kind of encouraging and fostering an environment of collaboration. The second was to inspire people from all walks of life to get into technology. And finally, really making sure that people had a platform to celebrate their success.
That is truly remarkable because I think that those 3 things that you guys focus on are core and they are essential to the spirit that we have here in Birmingham. So it's truly remarkable, all the things that you guys have accomplished. And that's why I want to talk about the tech ecosystem in Birmingham. It's one that you're definitely a part of, that you and so many other people are leading. What's happening in Birmingham? For those people that are watching this show right now and all they've heard about Birmingham in recent times is the successful Commonwealth Games. Let's tell them a little bit about the tech ecosystem right here in Birmingham.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Birmingham Tech Week was a huge success. And so I was like, what's next? And really I expected an organisation to kind of step in and say, hey, we want to kind of better connect up the ecosystem and make sure that we can kind of fulfill our potential. Birmingham and the West Midlands is a phenomenal region full of innovation, full of amazing people, wonderful talent. The problem is, I don't think we've ever really shouted loud enough, and we haven't really kind of lived up to our full potential.
Which is characteristic of Birmingham.
And I think we're still on that journey, 100%. But I wanted to kind of make a real difference. And so off the back of Birmingham Tech Week, I formed Birmingham Tech as that kind of ecosystem organisation. And really that was to take those pockets of collaboration that had emerged and really start to connect them up to facilitate kind of partnerships and relationships. So people, organisations, tech companies within the ecosystem could start to really, leverage what was available to them. And again, kind of focusing on 3 areas: investment and access to funding, making sure that business support was available to them but was high quality and relevant, and then finally access to the right talent to enable them to grow in a sustainable and fast way at the same time. And that's what we've done. That's what we've kind of been on doing. And really we're the glue, we're the conduit that brings it all together. I've got to say the ecosystem is made up of wonderful people like yourself, wonderful organisations that support businesses and people on the way. And that's resulted in last year the government recognising us as the fastest growing tech sector in the UK. Now obviously we've come from kind of the mid-table, and now we're probably kind of in the upper half. What we need to do now is kind of go for those Champions League spots really, and I know that we can do it. We're not far off. I think we're probably already kind of there now.
Absolutely. I mean, if any city can do it, it definitely is Birmingham, because this is the city of opportunity and we've got all the resources to make it work, particularly thinking about the ecosystem. We've got talent, we've got support, we've got all sort of stakeholders making it happen. So huge success so far is what the Birmingham startup ecosystem has been. And I'm sure that, like you said, we're definitely going to get to those Champions League spots.
We will.
Okay, now let's talk about Birmingham Tech Week 2022. It's just a couple of weeks away. What should we look forward to?
Another massive question. There is so much going on at Birmingham Tech Week, and actually it's changing day by day, which is amazing. With less than kind of 30 days to go. So we have leadership breakfasts, we have opening events, after parties. So we're taking over Albert Schloss on the Monday evening. So that's going to be kind of full of insight to start off with, and then lots of fun to kind of end with. Tuesday is one that I'm kind of pointing people at, because that's our Tech Growth Summit.
Interesting.
And that will focus on all those key ingredients of the ecosystem to help tech businesses grow more sustainably and faster, to go global. That's kind of our big theme across Birmingham Tech Week this year, is enabling the West Midlands, but also the organisations within it to go global.
Fantastic.
Wednesday, we have a massive Future of Tech showcase, which will demonstrate our kind of innovative spirit as a region, and so much is going to be showcased there, from mixed reality to IoT to machine learning and artificial intelligence.
I can't wait for that.
So that's going to be really exciting. And then we have focus on digital skills. Obviously we have a digital skills gap at the moment, a bit of a talent war going on. So we want to enable organisations to understand how they can attract, retain, develop, and then turn that talent into leaders of tomorrow. And that's what we'll be focusing on the Thursday at UK. So I was going to say UK House, but of course that was what it was at the Commonwealth Games. But actually it's the Exchange, part of the University of Birmingham. And then we finish the week with an engineering conference on the Friday morning and afternoon. And then of course the Black Tie Dinner Awards at the ICC on the Friday evening.
I think that is a really packed schedule, but one that is packed with a lot of quality. Because from what I've heard from you, that gives something to everyone. It allows everyone to participate, and it just brings in all of the different stakeholders, which is why I'd like you to talk about, people that are not in Birmingham, that are not in the West Midlands. Why should they come? Why should they participate in this?
Yeah, I mean, before I do, I'm just going to kind of also give a shout out to kind of some of our key sponsors, but also actually talk about our fringe events, because that kind of somewhat answers your question. So what we're finding actually is a lot of private sector firms stepping in and helping kind of grow the ecosystem and support it from an investment point of view. So you've got the likes of Accenture, obviously investing more in the city, supporting Birmingham Tech, Goldman Sachs, Wise, who are a local company based in Solihull, Bruntwood SciTech, and SF Recruitment. So all of these organisations are helping us connect up with the public sector and really kind of building it from a private sector investment point of view. But then around Tech Week, so I mentioned only the main events, we've also got a fringe event schedule, so the Fringe Festival. And so that is made up of 25 events, all kind of empowering our community and our partners to really put on events that do all of the cross-section of technology across the West Midlands. So that's where you kind of get into kind of health tech and future mobility and all of those exciting areas too.
I think that that's quite important, because what it does is it brings everybody in to actually participate and really make the Tech Week a success. And that is truly emblematic of the spirit that we know that we have right here in Birmingham, and particularly in the Birmingham startup ecosystem. It's quite remarkable. Now, lastly, before we go, Yanis, I know that a report was launched earlier this year which talked about, Birmingham and the tech ecosystem and some of the remarkable things that we're doing. Do you want to speak a little bit about that, what is contained in it, and why people should take a look at that?
Absolutely. So we ran the West Midlands Tech Review and subsequently produced a report. And that was really kind of focusing on why we were the fastest growing tech sector in the UK. And really, again, it focuses on those three areas. We have collaborated, really remarkably over the last couple of years through a pandemic. It's brought us closer together, and those partnerships are really kind of starting to kind of see results. More investment coming into the region as a result of that too. More talent emerging. Within a 1 hour drive of the city of Birmingham, there are 300,000 graduates per year. It's the youngest city in Europe, the most diverse city in Europe. This makes our foundation as a region incredible. And now what we're seeing is lots and lots of innovative technology that was in that kind of R&D innovation phase, starting to be commercialized and starting to turn into scale-ups that hopefully will boost the economy, not just locally, but also nationally as well.
We're quite confident that definitely will happen. And thank you very much, Yanis, for all the work that you and all the other leaders in the ecosystem are doing to actually make RCT that remarkable startup ecosystem that it is. Thank you for coming on the show today, Yanis.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. We have heard from one of the people that is making it happen in the startup ecosystem. But right now, we're going to move very quickly to talk about an organization that is an example of some of the things that Yanis has talked about today. Pam Shima is out and about. Is going to be talking with Energym, which is a fantastic organization using technology to do remarkable things in the city. You want to stay tuned for that one. Don't go anywhere.
Hi everyone, I am absolutely delighted to be at Innovation Birmingham, speaking to the CEO of Energym, Will Flint. Hi Will, lovely to meet you today. So I've got a couple of questions for you. First question is, tell me about yourself. Secondly, tell me about your business, and also what inspires you.
Sure, thanks Pam, it's great to have you here. So my name is Will Flint, I'm the founder and CEO of Energym. I have a background in electrical engineering. I also used to work for a company where I used to be an energy reduction analyst, where I used to go into big corporate buildings and look at how they could reduce their overarching energy expenditure. At that time, it was a lot more about the overall cost of energy, as it is now, funnily enough. Less more about sustainability in those times, but I've, over my journey, I've as we all have, had a huge passion that's burning about sustainability and wanting to do something about it. I've also got a bit of a background in fitness. Fitness has helped me through a number of different hard times in my life, and it's really therapy for me. I really believe in gym training, and it's helped me through a lot. So really the concept behind Energym was born out of my two major passions in life, and from my background and experience within the sector too. So Energym is a business, a tech business, where we have been working for a few years to be developing new patented technology which can capture the energy from people's workouts at very high efficiencies and convert this into clean, usable power that can be utilised by buildings such as gyms to feed it back into their grid and help to offset their energy costs and also their carbon footprint as well. We've seen terrific success. It's on a big growth trajectory, so it seems. We've been a number of years in development, which has been challenging during the COVID phase, but we've innovated, and now we've got an incredible demand and pipeline for our products and technology in both the commercial sector and the home market, which is looking extremely exciting. So yeah, that's me.
That's amazing, and the energy and the cost crisis is so prevalent now. So blending your two passions is amazing. So based on the journey and a little bit what you described, what's been your biggest challenge and what's been the biggest successes from your journey?
So challenge-wise, we're a hardware technology business as well as software. We have a software layer to what we do, but naturally supply chains are a really big challenge. It were earlier in the year. We've managed to find some solutions now which are working, but there's still a bottleneck there. And the situation going on in the world right now has meant, and coming out of a post-COVID economy, has meant it's been difficult to. There's a microchip shortage, for example, which ironically is the smallest component inside of our product. And there's hundreds of other components, and they're all fine. But the microchip shortage is actually the smallest item has actually crippled and delayed some of our production runs. I'm happy to say that we're now back on track, and we are looking to launch into live gyms across the UK and the EU within weeks. So I'd say that.
That's phenomenal. So challenges in terms of supply chains, but success in terms of getting through that and having kind of a plan to expand to Europe. Wonderful. Okay, so as a aspiring inspirational tech entrepreneur, what pieces of advice would you give to other entrepreneurs out there?
Advice. There's so much. I've learned loads during this journey. Things that have helped me through is learning to be resilient. Getting that tough skin, but also not taking your eyes off the end goal and having that mission there, and keep reminding yourself of that when times get tough. Focus on that end goal and that end vision, and imagine you're there, and then break down the steps in terms of getting there. Patience as well. Not everything is a quick and easy ride. Definitely, this journey for us hasn't been. There's been a number of hurdles that we've had to overcome. But Rome wasn't built in a day. But it will come over time if you keep putting in the hours, the effort, working hard, working smart. And then finally, I'd say surround yourself with great people. I've been very fortunate enough to have built a world-class team of engineers and marketeers. We're now nearly 20 strong. And, that recruitment process, building a team of like-minded individuals who share the same passion, share that drive, and help to form that culture.
Wonderful. And one more question. Hey, what top tips would you give on raising investment? Because you was from a startup and now you're doing your next round. So any top tips on that?
This is an interesting one. So I nearly fell into this trap myself, but a lot of contacts and friends of mine have, I think, made the mistake of trying to get investment too soon. And with investment, there are a number of pitfalls that you can go down, and when an investor joins your business, it's a marriage. They're there for what you perceive to be for the lifetime of that journey. So it's almost a recruitment process in itself. Making sure that you find those investors that are right for your business. That's they're smart. They can add value and help you get there and believe in your journey and you as a person, and also that you get on with it. Those people. But I believe that there's this kind of rush to, we need investment, we need funding in order to do this. You don't, and part of our journey was about building things inside of labs, which we were, borrowing and renting for free. The universities have been fantastic in supporting us. But there is grant funding out there as well. There's Innovate UK, who have supported us through some phases. And there's lots of local, regional funds around there, and I'd recommend definitely applying for that and searching through that first. The moment you start focusing everything on the pitch, as it were, and finding those investors, is the moment you take your eyes off building your business. And ultimately, you're going to get the best valuation for your business, the best investors that are suited to you if you build and deliver something of value. So your time is the most important resource. Focus that on building your minimum viable product, testing your market. And there are pockets of external funding that you can, do and be in control of within reason, and then the investors then they will come to you. So that's my nugget of advice.
That's wonderful. There's lots of top tips in this, so thank you so much. I'd love to have a look at the book Bikes. Is that okay? Okay, let's go. Will, I'm loving the atmospheric green lighting here. So we are in Regen. Can you tell us a little bit more about it, please?
Sure, thanks Pam, and welcome to the Regen experience. So this is actually a live demo showroom site that we've set up right next to our HQ here at Innovation Birmingham. We use this area typically for live testing of our technology, and also we invite clients, gyms and commercial spaces on the like to be able to come and experience what we've built. So we've actually got one of our earlier prototypes here, and this is a Regen Ride indoor studio cycle. This is a bike which is extremely smart. We have geeked out on the technology within this, but this bike actually harnesses the power from your workouts by spinning magnets around a coil and creating an electrical current, which is then smartly rectified in this rear fin in this box. And that fin contains all of the smarts and the brains behind the operation. It controls the power, it levels it out, it rectifies it, and then converts it into DC power, which is then pushed into a battery unit, and that battery then feeds the building itself that it resides in. So there's two different types of versions of the product. There is a home cycle, and there is also a gym commercial cycle. And the core difference there with other areas is mainly the battery unit. So within the home unit, we have an ohm battery unit, which you can see here is a previous prototype on the front. And this incorporates a live LED power meter, and it will start to glow as soon as you start pedaling. It then syncs with our smartphone app, and it will remember and recognize the level of your fitness, and it will glow accordingly to how hard you're training, and it will change color when you want to get into your green zone. And that green zone changes over time. The fitter you get, the harder that gets to get into. So it's trying to push you consistently and constantly with nothing more than just a color indicator. Inside of the gym studio environment, we have a different type of battery unit, and that battery collects all of the cycle's power and pushes that in parallel into a bigger battery unit. We have a mock demo example of a battery unit like this. In reality, they're a little bit bigger than this, and they will also glow green whilst they are charging and creating power. That power then gets injected directly into the grid of the gym and allows this to reduce the amount of energy that's being utilized and obviously save on costs, but also reduce carbon footprint. And we can also use this entire experience to really incentivize fitness and to keep that moving forward. So you'll see here as well, it's paired with the screen that's on the bike. And we have a low energy screen with some of our software, which is actually fantastic. This really makes the experience quite special. So once the users are all pedaling together, their workout scores and their metrics and power scores are all displayed in this leaderboard, and over time they will fill up, and then the instructor will have full control and they will have oversight as to how much power they're creating. The instructor can actually do quite smart things here as well, such as control the whole class's resistance as a group, increase that and decrease that. You can do rhythm rides, power rides, different types of workouts, and lots of stuff that was never really been possible before. So we've not just focused, for us, this is about, yes, of course, generating power at maximal efficiencies and making that meaningful, but it's also about incentivizing the fitness experience and trying to make it just that little bit more fun and engaging. So, yeah, thanks for visiting, Pam, and I hope you enjoyed that.
Well, that was incredibly inspiring and innovative, and I absolutely love your passion. So thank you so much for today. Thank you.
You're welcome back to Birmingham Business TV Live, and we're about to go into a fantastic segment called the Joel Blake Business Show.
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody will have heard Joel's name, anybody who's out and about around the city. He's a man who wears many hats, doesn't he, Davis? And the idea of this segment of the show is that this will give Joel an opportunity to dig in a bit more detail into a burning issue. And as we mentioned earlier on, the one big burning issue at the moment, the big burning word, is legacy, isn't it?
Absolutely. Legacy, legacy, legacy. The legacy of the Commonwealth Games and how this city continues to thrive and build upon the fantastic achievement that we had during the Commonwealth Games. The Joel Blake Business Show is going to be a panel of experts. They're going to be talking about business in the city and every other thing related to that.
And what a panel he's got lined up for our first one. Joel, over to you.
So welcome to the Joel Blake Business Show. I'm your host, Joel Blake, and today we're going to be exploring the legacy of the Commonwealth Games. Commonwealth Games have been a fantastic thing in our region. It's really helped the region to really highlight the power that we have, the diversity that we have, the opportunities that are here. But what does it really mean for the business community? So today, to explore that subject, I want to really welcome our fantastic panel. Firstly, we have Nicola Turner, MBE, Director of Legacy for the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games. We have Councillor John Cotton, Cabinet Minister for Birmingham City Council. And we have Lorna Gavin, Head of Diversity, Inclusion and Corporate Responsibility at law firm here at Gowling WLG. Thank you all for being here today.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, we're just going to have a really relaxed, informal conversation because the legacy of the Commonwealth Games, it's something that's been on the tip of the region's tongue for many a year, leading up to the Games, obviously during the Games. But now we really need to get to the nitty-gritty of what this really means. So, Nicola, what if I could start with you in asking you that question, really? You know, what does the legacy really mean?
The L word, John.
The L word, what does that really mean?
There's been a lot of talk about the L word in the moments after the Games, and I think so we set out to be a catalyst for change because anyone who lives here, anyone who loves this place, knows that we've been a little bit overlooked, and maybe, you know, our place and our people haven't had all the opportunities that we have deserved. So I think we all set out, whether we were Conservative, whether we were Labour, whether we were part of the community or part of the business organisations in the city, wanting this to be a success. But goodness me, didn't we step up? So there was an investment from government, and that came to the West Midlands at a crucial time. So there was £778 million that Birmingham City Council and the central government jointly invested in putting the Games on. And it was just after the pandemic when we had just been slammed as a region and come out the worst, both economically and probably socially, than any region in the country. So we had that ace in the hole at a time we needed it. But on top of that, we also managed to attract additional investment to the region. On top of the 778, we've also brought in £85 million to spend on youth engagement, a trade and tourism programme. We have done a Jobs and Skills Academy to bring talent to the Games, jobs that were being created. And we've done loads around anyone who visited the festivals or went to their local park to one of the community festivals. This was the stuff that wrapped around the 11 days of sport. And this was the stuff that had that core running through it of the Games for everyone. And what we tried to do with all of those things was bring affordable tickets, free to access events. And we looked at who had been unemployed in the region for a long time, who would really benefit from the 40,000 jobs and skills opportunities that the Games would bring. And I'm really pleased to say that the impact of some of those investments, although it's early days, and we're waiting till next summer till we see the full report on how we've done, but emerging signals are that we tried to train 7,500 people towards jobs that the Games was going to put forward, and 27% of those had been unemployed for more than 12 months. And more than 30% of those were young people under 30. And they were the people at that time that really needed that opportunity, that prospect change. We also spent £350 million on goods and services. And it's not often, I mean, I'm not used to the council's kind of spending power, but £350 million on one event is quite a big shopping list.
There's a lot of money.
And what we tried to do was trickle local benefit down. We tried to imprint local benefit into the buying choices we were making. And when we went out to suppliers, and you actually helped us with this, we went out to teach people how to apply to a really complex public procurement tender system. But we were aiming for local employers to be primarily benefiting from that £350 million. And by value, 75% of those contracts went to West Midlands businesses.
That's amazing to hear, and I think for our audiences who may not know those numbers, I hope that is impressive enough for them to take note, because this is all about making sure that we all can grow together on the back of the games, and we can leverage our diversity in all shapes and sizes within the region. But it's about the numbers, it's about the tangibility, it's about the impact. And if I could come to yourself, Lorna, in terms of the business view on that, because you spent many years working in the region, really helping big businesses to really understand the needs of local communities, local society, more than just profit. But what does the games legacy really mean for businesses now in this kind of uncertain time of economic challenges, etc.? What does it really mean? What does the games really mean to business?
I think it means everything to business, because really what you had, alongside everything that Nicola has described, you had businesses around the region shouldering behind the effort of the organising committee and the council, and actually wanting to invest themselves, because businesses could see they could reap a massive dividend from the build up to the games and games themselves and beyond. So, when you go to like a training session and someone will say at the end of the session, use it or lose it. Yeah. That's what I'm picking up from businesses. We've had this glorious opportunity, and businesses have taken it, because we saw from day one the benefits for us. There were benefits as sponsors and being able to galvanise our own people, really build that culture, that sense of pride in our organisation, but in the business community and the city. So you get your people really, really motivated. The skills that businesses are deploying, whether they're part of the formal games family or not, but businesses of all shapes and sizes are opened up to this opportunity that the games brought. For us, it was helping to steer, from a legal point of view, a big complex programme. But so you're using that. It's great for bringing more clients, more business into the region. And then, like you say, crucially, the social piece. That's the thing that struck me with the games from day one. The social value, delivering that legacy for the city, was just hardwired. Everything that the games were about, that structure it's so much more than just the sport. And so you're seeing that being delivered. So whether you've got businesses who were really doubling up on their volunteering programs and supporting social enterprises, community partners that may otherwise have just really been in the shadows of the games. So businesses using their leverage to give tickets away in the same way that the organising committee were, but building those long-term relationships. So in a way, to use that sporting analogy, it's a bit of a marathon. I think we're only just really getting off the starting blocks, and the longer race now is absolutely leveraging these amazing 4 years in the run-up to those games, the games themselves. And now we've got a new foundation, a new platform to just bring more business into the region. Those businesses use the skills.
I think you make a really great point there, Lorna, because it is a marathon. It's not the games have come and gone and now everything's all going to be wonderful. There's now work, arguably, is really starting for the business community to make sure that they are leveraging the value of the games, but also continuing to give back into the region. And certainly, I would assume, Nicola, that talent is going to be a huge part of that. Certainly in terms of the volunteering opportunities and the talent coming through, and how businesses can leverage some of that talent now more than ever before. Which then does bring me on to yourself, Councillor Cotton, in terms of the inclusive impact overall from a local authority point of view. What does the games really mean to yourselves, and what does the potential opportunities look like from your perspective?
Well, I keep on going back, Joel, to the conversations that we had at the very start of when we were thinking of applying to host the games. And a question that was often asked of Ian Ward, the leader of the council at the time, was, can we afford to do this? And actually, I think the real question now is, could we have afforded not to have done this? Because, we wouldn't be having this conversation if those games had ended up going up the M6 to Liverpool or wherever else. So, the impact that's had upon our city has been amazing. It's put us on the global stage in a way that, it's hard to believe when you think of the impact that opening ceremony had, and then the days of sport that followed. It also is a great opportunity to showcase the amazing diversity of this city. I've always said, diversity is in Birmingham's DNA. We're a great, diverse and inclusive place, and we're able to celebrate that on a national and international stage. And I think that's, you know, it creates huge opportunities for business, huge opportunities for our communities here in the city. You know, we're now looking at what are the further things that we can do. So we're talking about bringing the World Blind Games here, bringing the World Trampolining Championships, looking at the European Athletics, talking about bringing Eurovision as we, you know, as the UK hosts on behalf of Ukraine. So, you know, huge opportunities that then open up. And again, we've learned so much, I think, from, you know, how to maximise the social value of the investment that came to the Games and how to share it with communities as well. One of the really important things I think we delivered here was a set of programmes that sat alongside the Games that touched each of the 69 wards in the city. So, you know, there's a £2 million programme that the council funded to host events in each of the wards. We had some great community events in my part of East Birmingham, for instance. There's some great things that happened elsewhere in the city. There was the £2 million that we also put into the Creative Cities scheme, you know, supporting arts organisations who really needed that support, frankly, post-COVID, you know, and creating some great innovation, some great creative things that the city can celebrate as well. So huge amount of opportunity. We've learned so much, I think, about how you can maximise the impact of social value, how, you know, when business and the public sector come together around a shared agenda, and you can deliver those jobs and opportunities, which is really fundamental when you think about the inequalities that we still have in many parts of this city. So creating opportunities for people to access jobs, access all those other things that the city has to offer.
I think that, again, that's fantastic. And I think what I'm hearing, that is a real positive opportunity that the whole region can leverage on the back of the legacy of the Games. But arguably, there was some who be thinking, well, what does that mean for me in terms of a small business? Or what does it mean for a business that might be looking to the region as an opportunity to use as a launch pad for the next phase of growth for their business? So from an actual business point of view, what would we say would be maybe some of the challenges that businesses might need to consider in order to truly leverage the opportunity of the Games? And I'll leave that open to whomever.
I think we could learn a lot from some of the businesses that have benefited. So, for example, there's a small SME called Taran 360 that's based in Perry Bar. It is an immersive tech business, and I don't know if anybody played with the Perrys that could pop up on the side of your laptop, or when you went out to stand beside the big Perry statues and did your pose, and Perry would pose with you in the mirror. Taran and his very small company built that tech. And I think that they didn't think that the events industry was a market for them.
Okay.
And so it's opened their eyes to where else they could be pitching their tech. And you know, they've also been through your programme to help them work out how to go through a public procurement process. And now they've got skills and they've got a case study. So where do they go next? And then how does that organisation help the next Taran 360? You know, I think we need to help each other. I think one of the things that's gone really well for this Games is because we were coming together around a common purpose, we've managed to find a sweet spot of harmony between the public sector, the private sector, and the third sector. And I think that jam, whatever that is, we need to keep spreading it on our toast, right? Because that is what makes us different from every other city. If we can crack that, that gives everybody more hands up.
It really did feel to us like you were part of the Games family, and when you're part of that family, you kind of want to bring other people in to sit around the table, as it were. So yes, we also worked with SMEs and social enterprises, showing them how they could navigate their way through. And to your point, Nicola, where they thought, I could never get a pitch, you know, in that huge machine that is the Commonwealth Games, and taking those perceived barriers away, showing you've got exactly the talents and the skills and the entrepreneurial spirit that this city needs. The Games need it, but the city will still need those skills and that drive after the Games. And I think that family thing, it sort of survives, and so you've still got businesses like ourselves going, well, let's just come on board and come and talk to us. We've got partnerships that began off the back of a formal Games-sponsored initiative, and they've reached their conclusion. It was a 12-month programme, but they're still rolling. You've got senior people in organisations going, can we give them some free legal advice? Can we do this, that and the other? That's exactly what you want. You just want it to run.
But that's a really important point there again, Lola, because as much as we're championing small businesses, and I myself have been doing that for many years, as the same as we all, what about the larger organisations who have more resources to a degree, might have more of an infrastructure to create even more powerful change and contribution, and a greater contribution to the region in terms of scale and size? How do we help them to think differently about what they're doing?
I think they're already thinking differently. I think the ESG wave, or the environmental, social and governance wave, which we used to think of as the corporate social responsibility kind of conscience of business, I think that's woken up in a huge way post-pandemic. But I think the Games and the model that we employed for the Games was very much, we're going to spend £350 million, but in exchange for being a supplier on the Games, 10% of your contract needs to be given back or paid forward into this region to help. And we gave people a list of things that they could invest in, whether that was ethical trading, whether it was sustainability, whether it was diversity and inclusion, or whether it was jobs and skills. And we said, here's also a list of local not-for-profit organisations that you could partner with. And the take-up of that opportunity has been incredible. In Corporate Wear, who are based in Coleshill, they did all our uniform. So all those bolty orange volunteers were made in by the Coleshill company in Corporate Wear. And when they bid for their contract on the Games, it was a big contract, and we said to them, we're challenging you, pick one of those areas to give us some social value. And they said, we're going to go for it on sustainability, but it's going to be really hard for us because our entire supply chain will have to come with us on this, and we've never done that. And they said, we don't know if we can do it. And we said, please try. So what they have managed to do is, the little tiny plastic tags that hold labels onto clothes. And sometimes when you do shirts, you've got the folding and the little plastic clips. And also, getting those uniforms to people, the carbon footprint of flying them out or driving them to people, 14,000 volunteers.
That's a lot of people.
They thought about all of that, and they cut their carbon footprint in single-use plastics in half. And they said, if you hadn't challenged us, we probably wouldn't have challenged our supply chain. But by goodness me, are they making that a massive case study in all their future bids and tenders? Because that's put them on the front foot now competitively.
And I think that is a great example, because I think that shows that no matter what size of business you are, there are opportunities if you think differently about the opportunity. And I think the business community in Birmingham has always been entrepreneurial, but with something as large as this coming into the region, it's how do you apply that kind of mindset and energy to make sure you can leverage that in a new and exciting way, especially in the economic climate and times that we're in, where every business needs to think differently. They can't do what they have always done in order to feel they can succeed in the future. So I think that's a great example of taking advice, thinking slightly differently, and open up a new opportunity for business. And I think where we are at the moment also is that everyone has the opportunity to grow in the region as a business. But we have to do, as you said, do it more collaboratively, do it in a much more inclusive way, without it being a charitable there, here you are. I think the days of that, are controversially maybe, those days are not done, but more big businesses want to see more strategic investment partners. They want to work with organisations who can show that they're there for the long term. It's almost the days of handing out a cheque are almost done to a degree. Would you agree, maybe?
Yeah, and I think there's a real appetite, as you said, amongst business to really engage in this social responsibility, social value agenda in a way that moves massively away from that more paternalistic approach that you talk about. Pejoratively, you say you've gone a long way from when the people used to come out and paint a fence for a day. It's more about how can you maximise the long-term impact of the investment that you're making. So, we, as you say, there's still quite a substantial procurer of goods and services as the City Council. And one of the things that we've tried to do through our Business Charter for Social Responsibility is exactly that. And, maximise the impact of every pound that we're spending. So encouraging the use of local supply chains, getting businesses to think innovatively, because, business is full of innovation. So how do you unlock that in ways that then produce benefits for communities? And if I think about the work that we've done with businesses in the city around the real living wage, for instance, there's a real appetite to engage on those agendas. I think one of the challenges for us, which again has been, we've seen the potential of this mobilised by the Games is really to set out what our ask of businesses is going forward. So we know that we've got significant issues around social and economic inequality in this city. And fixing that isn't a nice to have, because actually if you fix that, there's so much talent and potential that you unlock an opportunity for greater productivity that benefits all of us. I think we've got to set out clearly, you know, how we can work with business, where those opportunities are, what we'd like them to think about innovating and helping to support us with. The game showed us how you can really do that. And now as we move into this cost of living crisis and everything else that's coming down the track, that's going to be more important than ever.
Absolutely, and I suppose in my day-to-day world we talk a lot about inclusive innovation as a kind of fintech space, and one of the things that's really coming out is how businesses can now use technology in more exciting ways in order to drive even greater value for their clients. But I think that also is applicable to non-financial spaces, non-business spaces. I think it's about inclusive thinking and inclusive innovation as a region now, because I think, as you say, the global platform that the Games has given us the opportunity to showcase why people should work with us inclusively in all manners of the word.
I think what's really interesting is I think we started out the Games as, you know, there's a lot of words around we're the youngest city in Europe, we're one of the most diverse cities with 180 countries represented in our residence. But I think when people came here and visited, they didn't see those things. What they saw was a friendly city, a city that made them feel welcome. And, you know, when we looked at the visitor scores, we've just had those in on Friday, and it was so interesting to see. They said, John's going to be happy with this. They said that Birmingham was a great location for a major event. And it wasn't just like 50% of people that said that. 93% of the people they surveyed said it was incredible.
Yeah, amazing.
And the market research company that did this like visitor survey, they do this for a living, and they said that the net promoter score on this event was the highest they have ever seen for any event ever. And that, I'm not that familiar with what a net promoter score, but that is the likelihood of you telling the person in the queue next to you or in the lift, oh, this was great.
Yeah.
It was great. And we all want a bit of that, don't we?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think for me, that itself is a perfect example of why we as a region need to continue to shout loud about what we have, the opportunities that are here, but do it much more collaboratively, do it together.
Yeah.
I guess stop this fragmentation that we sometimes see when things happen in the region, and they get it. Let's all get it. Let's all share, and let's make sure that the value gets cascaded right down, grassroots right through to boardrooms, because that's the only way we all win.
Everyone wins.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know? So, in terms of our audience and those who've been watching the show today, I hope you've really got an insight into some of the great things that colleagues have been working on and working in, and the value they've been providing through their organisations. But also understanding that you as the business community really have the opportunity now to really leverage the legacy of the Games, whether it's about talent, whether it's about opportunity, whether it's about contribution to community, whether it's about economic growth for your own organisation and your contribution to the region itself. But more importantly, doing it from in the right way, with the right purpose, for the right reasons. You've got the opportunity to do that. So let's kind of all keep going together and keep driving forward to make this the greatest place in the world, which it already is, really. So please do tune into our next show, where we'll be talking about finance. But before we go, I'd like to just invite all our guests just to share a final thought, contact details, anywhere where our business audience can come and learn a bit more about the legacy of the game. So Nicola, if I can start with yourself.
So the Games, you know, we ran it on a shorter timescale than normal. We crossed the various challenges of the pandemic and still put it on and made a success of it. And the good news is we didn't spend all the money. So there is some unspent contingency. And, you know, I'm coming together with the leader of the council, with the mayor, to keep this spirit of collaboration going. Because we think if we go in together and ask government if we can keep the money in the West Midlands and spend it on the economy, spend it on the social impact that we've just started to see unfolding, and spend it on making this a major event city that everyone wants to come to, that would be a tremendous legacy.
That's your space. Councillor Cotton.
Yeah, it was always about much more than just the 11 days of sport. You know, we've had this amazing opportunity to showcase our city and our region to the world. and the world has clearly liked what they've seen, as we've just heard. So, you know, there's a moment here that we really need to seize. Particularly as we know that there's also challenges coming down the track as well economically. So if we really need to maximise the impact of this moment, you know, making use of the resources that we know are there from that underspend, but also the innovation and the talent that we've unlocked through the games and afterwards as well. So yeah, we're absolutely up for leading that and working with our partners at the City Council to ensure that happens. And if anyone wants to follow more, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Councillor John Cotton.
Fantastic, thank you. And last but not least, Lorna.
Yeah, I think, you know, from our perspective, we were lucky to be in almost from day one. It was one of the first sponsors of the games. It was a big leap of faith for us, really. We'd never done anything quite on this scale before. It quickly became a no-brainer, and just the returns we've seen as a business have been phenomenal. And I think one of the most joyous things has been seeing actually working with other businesses. That sense of collaboration we've heard about time and time again, it was there and it still carries on. Seeing the benefits for people and organisations, but for us, I think, you know, the community benefit has just been the icing on the cake. And seeing that, I say, that is a thing that will survive long past the last podium being dismantled, and by the way, probably being donated to one of the community groups we've been talking about. You know, this feels like the beginning now. A huge legacy has been built, and now we need to keep building on it. This is like the foundation, and now let's just keep it growing.
Feels like it's up to us, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a responsibility, but I think, like you said, you're seeing the whole city in its widest sense in the region pulling together.
wanna let it go,
Everyone
do we?
wants
Absolutely.
to, you know,
Absolutely.
share the
Fantastic.
benefit.
We can make it happen.
I think we can.
We can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for your time today and being part of BBTV, and we look forward to kind of seeing what happens next with the legacy of the games as a real catalyst for the future. So to our audience, please do continue to follow us on bbtv.live, follow us on Twitter, connect with us on LinkedIn, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Birmingham, as you know, is a truly international city, and I'm delighted to be joined by an entrepreneur who represents that international nature of Birmingham. Born in Jamaica, inspired in Japan, and doing business here in the UK, Monique Farquharson, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Davies.
So good to have you in the studio today talking about all things matcha. But before we get into the conversation around matcha, I want to understand a bit about your story, because Jamaica, Japan, UK, how did all of that happen?
That's a very good question. I mean, it's full circle, right? So as you rightly mentioned, I was born in Jamaica, and when I was small, I always had this passion for Japan and everything Japanese. And I decided I wanted to accomplish one goal in life, literally just one, and that is to go to Japan.
Interesting.
Yes. And what I did was I positioned absolutely every single thing in my life to accomplish that one goal. And then I so happened to go to Japan, and then now I'm in the UK.
So what happened when you go to Japan?
So essentially, let's just take it back when I was in Jamaica. So when I was there, I had this affinity to entrepreneurship, and then I wanted to start my own business. And I was in university, and there was this entrepreneurship competition, and I entered because I was thinking of starting a business in baking, because as you know, I love to bake. And I was just not convinced that that was, you know, what I really wanted to do. There was something that was missing, and it just so happened that some women introduced me to this fantastic product, matcha. I absolutely hated it.
Really?
Yes, I hated it. I did not like it at all. And then I was doing some research, you know, for just interesting ingredients to bake with and that kind of thing. And then it popped up again. I was like, what? Why would they be using this to bake? Because when I tasted it for the first time, it really was not that good. But then I said, you know what, let me see what, you know, they're saying, because I was watching this video and then it said it's from Japan. Now remember, my one goal in life was to go to Japan. Exactly. So I said, because of this bias that I had, let me try matcha once more. And then I tried it again, and my entire life changed. And when I tried it, it was just amazing. It had a whole host of health benefits. And then it was really helping me to stay up and be more productive, because that is one of the main reasons why I even drink matcha to this day. And it was so versatile because now I could use it in baking. And I said, that is what was missing. So I started my business, and then my customers, they kept asking me, you know, how was Japan? How was your trip there? Because they automatically assume that since I'm selling a Japanese product, I must have visited Japan, right?
So matcha is a Japanese product.
Precisely, yes. So matcha essentially, let's get that definition there. So matcha is the green tea leaves. So like the leaves behind us, the leaves of the green tea, they ground it up into a powder, and then that powder is what is matcha. So this powder, it is high in antioxidants. It's good for your metabolism. It helps you to focus. It's just a natural source of energy. So it has a whole host of amazing health benefits. And as I mentioned, that is the reason why I started to drink it. And of course, it's versatile. So you can, you know, bake with it, you can drink with it, you can do a whole host of things.
So it's not just a tea, because a lot of people think matcha and they think, oh, it's just one of those other green teas.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, to be fair, it is something that is normal and natural to think that way, because most of the times when you're introduced to matcha, you're introduced to it as matcha tea. So, and even traditionally in Japan, what they use matcha for traditionally is tea. So they, you know, use their little bowls and then they mix matcha and they drink it. But matcha is so much more than a tea. And it's really when I went to Japan and immersed myself in the culture, that's when I realized that they use matcha in literally everything. So you have matcha in confectionery, you have matcha in baking, you have matcha in healthcare, you have matcha in skincare, you have matcha in hair care. It's just a world of amazing things that you can do with matcha. So it's just, it goes far beyond just a tea.
Fantastic. That is so refreshing to know, because for a lot of people, they might think, you know, matcha is just tea, but to think that it could be used in so many different other spaces,
yes,
that is quite remarkable. Now, you've built a business around this entire product of matcha.
Yeah.
Tell us about the business and the ranges of product that you've got on it.
Sure. So what I have, and it's right in front of us here, I have the matcha powder, because what I wanted to do, I wanted to start from the beginning, and this is how I was introduced to matcha as a powder first, right? And then from this, it's just a building block, because now you have this powder and then you can use this powder into anything. And one of the things that I value is creativity, and that is what excites me so much about matcha, because I can be as creative as I want to be when I'm using my matcha. So I can make drinks with it, I can make pancakes, cakes, all sorts of amazing little, you know, treats and that kind of thing. And I just absolutely love the flavor. And then when I'm whisking it, it's just a nice experience. So that's what we start with Petite Square. So we started with the powder. So we have here, we have our ceremonial matcha, because matcha has different grades. You have ceremonial and you have culinary, and we can get into those definitions. And the tin is where you put your ceremonial matcha in, and then you just store that in your cupboard. And now you have your whisk, because traditionally that's how you make matcha. So you use this bamboo whisk. So let me just take this up here. And you take this and you pour some water in a beautiful bowl. It's called a chawan. And you use this, which is called a chasen. So say that with me, Davis, chasen.
A chasen.
Yeah, and then you put it in a chawan.
Chawan.
Yes, so that's what.
Lots of learning happening today.
That's right. And then you pour your matcha in the bowl, you add some water, and you just whisk it. And that is how you have matcha in the traditional way. And then you can use that as your base to pour that on ice cream, for example. So I'm not sure, are you familiar with affogato?
No, I'm not.
Davis, come on now. So affogato is basically when you have your espresso shot, like coffee, and then you just pour on that on some ice cream. So that's what an affogato is.
Interesting.
So it matcha, because we're throwing away coffee. Yes, I said it. We're throwing away coffee. So
She said it, not me.
So we throw away coffee and you just pour your matcha on ice cream, and it's beautiful.
That is quite interesting. It's quite a story. It's fascinating, and it is educative as well, because I mean, I didn't know a lot about chasen and the rest of these things that I've talked about today, so that's quite remarkable. So we've got the ceremonial matcha, you said?
So this one is a ceremonial.
Okay. And then so I buy that, I put it in the tin for safekeeping, and then I just use the whisk whenever it is I want to make my matcha. That's quite interesting. Now, one of the things I want to talk about as well is the company itself. So the company is called Petite,
Petite
Squares.
Squares, yeah.
Now, what is it that you look forward to with the company? Because we've started with this remarkable set of products. We've talked about all the fantastic benefits of matcha, and you've also expressed that creative side. And I've seen some of your videos, and guys, I could tell you those videos are really, really good. You should go check them out. They're probably going to inspire you to begin to do some creative work with matcha. But tell us about the company. Where is it headed?
Yeah, so let's just take it back. So as I mentioned, so we moved from Jamaica. So I had started Petite Squares when I was in Jamaica, and then my customers started to ask me, you know, how was Japan? So because I wanted to first understand the product a bit more, and I take credibility and authenticity really seriously. So I wanted to make sure that whatever it is that I'm offering, I have seen it, I've felt it, I've worked with the actual suppliers, the actual manufacturers. So I went to Japan just to get that authentic experience, to understand the product. And then it's when I was there that Aston, they pretty much blessed me with a scholarship, and then that moved me to the UK to start my business here. So we've just launched in the UK Petite Squares, and we're located online, so that's petitesquares.co.uk, and these are our products. And in the future, what we're looking towards is basically transforming the matcha industry to showcase that matcha is not just a powder, but matcha is more of a superfood, an ingredient that you can inject into your daily life. And the next product that we're going to be launching is a beverage. So it's a beautiful beverage where you're just going to be fusing that Jamaican culture and that Japanese culture. So it's a spicy drink that is going to be coming out. It's going to be amazing. It's going to have that kick of ginger. Listen, you better look forward for that, Davis. It's going to be hot.
Can't wait to taste that. I'm sure that is going to be remarkable, because if there's anybody that can bring all of this together and make it work, it definitely is you. It's been fantastic having you on the show today, Monique. But just before we go, I'd like you to remind everyone that is watching about where we can find your product and where we can find those fantastic videos too.
Wonderful. Thank you, Davis. So you can find the products on petitesquares.co.uk. That's PETIT squares.co.uk. Just go online and you shop, get your matcha, and then you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, everywhere at Petite Squares. So just follow us on Petite Squares, start, you know, using your matcha, start making amazing things, and let's just make your perfect matcha.
Fantastic. Let's make your perfect matcha, she said. And I think Monique is the kind of entrepreneur that is the perfect matcha for Birmingham, because she truly represents what the city is about. A city that is thriving with young people and old people and people of all shapes, sizes, colors, people from all over the world doing remarkable things in this fantastic city and making the city a true place of business. We'll be right back.
So at the Centre for Growth, we work with businesses at lots of different stages, right from ideation stage before startup through to established businesses that want to grow. We will get to know businesses within our local community in the West Midlands and sometimes nationally, find out what their needs are and work with them. And the end result of that is not only developing skills in the business leaders and helping them to implement different management practices, but also because we're working with many businesses over time, it has an impact on the regional economy around Aston. The business doesn't only join Aston to learn, they also join a network of other like-minded business owners who want to also achieve more with their business and grow their business, and that network becomes very powerful.
So I took part in the Small Business Leadership Programme with Aston. By doing things like the Small Business Leadership Programme, suddenly you look at things in a whole different way because there is a plan. And that's not to say we wouldn't have ever got here ever without the pandemic, but I definitely think that that crisis really pushes you to a point of do or die. And I think that I am tremendously lucky to say that East Village got to the point where we do, which is fantastic. I would undoubtedly recommend Aston Centre for Growth for any business programme going forward. I cannot rave about this enough. The value it's given me as a person is phenomenal, but the value I know I now bring to my team and my business is absolutely immeasurable.
The Drury Quarter Business Improvement District has entered its third 5-year term following a successful ballot renewal which saw a positive vote of 87% from businesses. Since it was established in 2012, the team has brought in over £4.5 million of investment via levy payments to benefit the local community, alongside a further £4 million of investment through partnerships. A historic Birmingham door manufacturer has been bought by a Doncaster firm a year before it celebrates its centenary. Established in 1923, E&SW Knowles manufactures bespoke internal door sets and employs around 100 people at its base in Witton. It has been acquired by Century Doors for an undisclosed sum. Property firm Knight Frank has joined forces with Birmingham's athletic club, Birchfield Harriers, in a program to support young athletes. The 3-year sponsorship deal that Knight Frank has agreed with the club, which is based at the Alexander Stadium, the track and field home of the Commonwealth Games, will support the work of Birchfield both at the stadium and within the community. A new recipient of an honorary doctorate from Birmingham City University has urged graduates to invest in the city and help remove the poverty threshold for children and young people. Speaking at his graduation ceremony, entrepreneur Paul Cadman, visiting professor at BCU, highlighted that over 40% of children in the city live below an internationally recognized level of living standards.
Well, it's time now for our Industry Insights slot. This is where we get down to the nitty-gritty with a particular issue which is troubling, perturbing quite a lot of businesses in the Birmingham area at the moment. Steve Walker from Arts Business Loans is here.
Good
Steve,
afternoon.
Have I understated that to say access to finance is a big issue at the moment?
I think it's always been a big issue, but I think it very much is now. But it's a different type of access to finance issue that's emerging.
Tell me a bit about you, your connection to the city, your history, your heritage, the full story in 30 seconds.
The full story in 30 seconds. I'm Birmingham born and bred. I was educated in Birmingham, King Edward's Camp Hill. I went to a career in Barclays when it was a relationship bank. Worked there for many years and left in 1997 to set up our Aston Reinvestment Trust, as it was then, now called Art Business Loans, with Sir Adrian Cadbury and others, to make loans to small businesses that couldn't get their finance from the bank. It's taken me to all sorts of places, and very interestingly on a government task force for a number of years, and to various places in the world where access to finance is an issue, but done in a different way.
All talk is now, with inflation continuing to rise, that we're going to be officially in recession at some point. What challenges specifically does that present to the business community in Birmingham, particularly maybe SMEs, in terms of just getting any kind of access to finance at the moment?
Well, first of all, the businesses at the end of the day have got to recognise that it's the right thing for them. Obviously, people will look for grants, but there's less grants available now. Go to specialists, save yourself a lot of time, don't use the internet. And go and have a look to see what's available, because there are grants available, particularly perhaps for energy saving. There might be more in the next weeks ahead, who knows. But in terms of loan finance, the first thing that the businesses have got to do is to actually look at their own position and make sure that a loan is the right thing for them. There are all sorts of different types of finance. It's all changed and it's a different world to what it used to be. But the businesses, first of all, are going to actually work out for themselves what's right for them. And maybe I could come up with some other tips a little bit later on as to what they actually should do.
That's a tease, isn't it? So what are the big challenges at the moment? I mean, is there something, is there a shopping list of, say, look, if I'm a business owner and I'm struggling, I don't feel I'm getting a competitive deal, or I don't think I'm getting a wide enough choice, am I doing something wrong? Are there some things that people typically do wrong?
Yeah, I think in the main, people still don't realise what's actually about. I mean, the world has changed. The banks are still the major lenders to small businesses. They are still the major lenders. But after the credit crunch 2008, the government and everybody else, in Bank of England in particular, encouraged others into the marketplace. So you heard alternative finance lenders, peer lenders, asset finance, invoice discounts, all those different. And I think it left some small businesses behind that there was this choice. And there was a lot of money about. One of the biggest problems, though, without any doubt, was the fact that the businesses themselves didn't realise where to go to. And it wasn't that well publicised, but there was a lot of money about.
So is that a lot of your job then, signposting?
It is, but we only lend if a bank actually, at Art, we only lend if a bank has actually said no. So we would like to think that basically people are coming to us after the bank has said no, but it might be part of a package. And a business now, and particularly in the present circumstances, will probably go to get the finance they need from a whole package of different finances. And it's knowing that those finances, we do know them because that's our business, but we might be part of that package to make something happen.
So what do you hear? I mean, you've got good intelligence then about how businesses are feeling at the moment. What kind of businesses are coming to you and what are they telling you?
Well, over the 25 years we've been in existence, we've lent to all sorts of business in all sorts of different sectors. You wouldn't be surprised to know that basically you've got the retail businesses, the hospitality businesses are finding it difficult. And now, with the energy crisis, I think more and more businesses, manufacturing businesses, are finding it difficult because they're having to look and say, well, how are we going to repay a loan back if our energy prices are going up? So we think and believe that there's going to be a bigger demand, and the banks are entrenching. They've come back in terms of how much they're lending. And so now the opportunity is there for the banks at the end of the day, for alternative finance suppliers like ourselves and additional suppliers to actually come in and help those businesses. I do think, though, that one of the biggest problems that's facing the business at the moment is to make sure that they've done their own calculations that they can afford the loan, because nobody should borrow if they can't afford to repay.
But of course the problem at the moment is they don't really know what they're comparing that against, are they? What's the yardstick? What they think they can compare at the start of this year is very different now to what they'll think in January, isn't it?
This is really different now. We've had credit crunches before, we've had the recession, and the banks didn't lend in those circumstances. But in these circumstances, which we've just had COVID, the banks did lend, but with a massive guarantee from the government, in some cases 100%. So that the people were awash, and it became very easy to borrow small amounts of money. It's not so easy now, and that's one of the messages I would give. It is not so easy now to borrow money. It will take more time, it will take more effort, and you might have to go to a lot of different places.
She's a bit busy this week, so she couldn't join us, but if Liz Truss was sat in this chair here instead of me, what would you tell her? What do you want the government to do? What's the shopping list?
Well, I think it would be not only at Liz Truss, but from my experiences of the last few years, don't forget that small businesses exist. They make up 99% of the businesses in the UK. 95% are micro businesses, 1 to 9 employees. 95%. And from my experience, I've seen very, very little help to those small businesses. It's mostly concentrated, when it's the public sector, on high growth businesses, equity, and those that are going to be the big, big success stories. Don't leave behind the small businesses, or you'll leave behind the whole of the economy. That's what I'd be saying.
Because they're the next ones off the production line that start the
Hopefully
business
they're going to be
growing anyway,
they're going to be the biggest growth businesses for the future. Well, some of them. Well, some of them are going to just basically be providing for their family and their future, and are going to be there forever.
We were talking to Henrietta a bit earlier and saying, the one thing you can't afford to do is dissuade entrepreneurs from giving it a go.
Oh, no. That's what we have done over the years. We don't necessarily now, like we did at the start, we lend to startups, but we tend to lend, there's a startup loan program which the government have brought out, but we lend to those businesses that are in the next stage and basically seeking to survive and grow. That's what we lend to, and we help and hope to support. And really, they need help. They're always going to look for grants, but some innovation, it's a small amount of money by comparison to the big amounts of money that are being put away. I do think, though, and I don't like talking about grants because we make loans, at the end of the day, I do think maybe some grant finance of some sort will be required in relation to the energy crisis.
Yeah. One top tip then, if you've got, finally, for a business that's watching this thinking, I need to dip my toe in the water, what should they do?
I think there are probably one tip, be absolutely confident about what you do, and I think most entrepreneurs are, and confident in your business, because it's a partnership with a lender or anybody you're going to get funds from. If it's a partnership, you basically need to be confident that you are in that partnership together.
And it goes without saying, no doubt, that if somebody wants to have a word, pick your brains, your door's open.
Absolutely. Yeah? Have a look at the website, www.artbusinessloans.co.uk. There are more than one tip on there, which we developed over the years They're there and to speak to the team. They've got experience. There's three lenders. They've got experience. We cover the whole of the West Midlands now. We don't just lend in Birmingham.
Excellent. Well, I hope we've whet everybody's appetite there and given them a few ideas where to go next. Steve, great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you again.
Thank you for your time. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much indeed.
Well, that's it for our first edition of Birmingham Business TV. Time's flown, hasn't it, don't you think?
Yes, it has been a fantastic show, and we really do hope that you've enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed it as well. From the Out and About with Pomp Shima, the Joel Blake Business Show, the interviews with Yanis and Monique, everything has been good.
But of course, this show will only work going forward if we are talking about the things which matter to you and to your business. So please do get in touch with us if you think there's something you'd like us to be talking about, if you'd like to invite us to come and pay you a visit, or maybe if you're feeling brave enough to take a seat on Joel's panel, don't you think?
Absolutely. You could get on the show yourself and participate in what it is that is happening in Birmingham and the business community particularly. Remember, it's a once-a-month show, so make sure that you're tuned in to the next episode.
All the details about how to contact us you'll find on our website, bbtv.live. You'll be able to watch this show on Catch Up, and of course you can contact us through our social media channels too. So all that's left for us to do now is introduce you to our final segment, the End of the Show show. This is a regular feature where we take 90 seconds to just get a little snapshot of what's really going on in the mind of an interesting businesswoman. And the first person in the hot seat today has got plenty of interesting things to say. We'll see you next month.
How do you hope your colleagues would describe you?
Kind, innovative, fun. Yeah, that'll do.
What qualities do you look for in colleagues?
Efficient, thorough, loyal, and I just think I want people to want to do something, like they want to get it done. It's important to finish it.
What's the most important lesson you've learned at work?
Don't always tell everybody all of it.
A word of advice to someone breaking into your industry?
Do your homework.
The biggest influence on your business career?
Birmingham.
Pet hates in the workplace?
Oh, where do I start? Laziness, lateness, which is ironic because I'm not always on time. Just a lack of passion.
Pet hates outside the workplace?
Just not looking after yourself.
Early bird or night owl?
I have just changed this summer. I'm now an early bird.
Food heaven?
Sushi.
Food hell?
Courgettes.
Beach, mountains or city break?
Bit of all. Can I cheat? City break.
Favourite personal possession?
A bracelet from my mum.
The biggest influence on your life?
My mum.
Your proudest achievement?
Oh. Fleet Mill. I mean, my business, it's, still there.